Hello, and welcome to Heartbreak Heal Podcast, where we are using multimedia channels to break generational curses in our thought process. Okay, our motto here is breaking hearts, blowing minds, one conversation at a time. Now, I want to preface this episode by saying what I'm about to talk about today is a very serious topic. Okay. Now, if you're in my comments and you may reach out or you may say something to me, I apologize, but I'm on a few different social media platforms right now. So I won't be able to respond to you right now. This is for those of you who are watching live. And for those of you who are listening, check us out with a visual on YouTube, all social media, Heartbreak Hill Podcast. Okay. Now, what are we talking about today? We are talking about predators, and specifically predators that are around us in our homes. Okay, this is not a man thing, this is not a woman thing, because both men and women can be predators as well as children. Okay, I'm going to be addressing all of that today. I'm going to be talking about how to recognize the signs, some characteristics of predators, and what to do. What to do when you have affirmed and been shown that a person in your home is a predator. Now, I want to start out by saying this. If I catch anybody in the comments, in the emails, anything like that, talking about how you have to be stupid, dumb, slow, or whatever if you don't know that somebody is messing with your child, I'm going to block you. And I would hate to do that because we have some amazing stuff coming this season. But I want to tell you that I'm going to block you. And the reason why is because this is not a shaming place. Anybody, and when I say anybody, family, I mean anybody can fall victim to the wiles and tricks of a predator. Okay. One of the reasons why predators have been able to operate in our homes and in our families for so long is because they are masters of disguise and deceit. So if I catch you on here saying stuff like, oh, you must be stupid to not know, you must be dumb to not know somebody messing with your child, you will be blocked. You will be blocked. Okay. All right. Now, you already know, before we get into today's content, we're going to start off with some Daily De Niro. Okay. Now, Daily De Niro is us bringing value and interesting facts to your business, to your Bible, and to your body. Okay. Let's kick it off. So, your body tips. Are you always feeling anxious? Do you feel like certain situations, certain people, certain activities make you anxious? Or maybe it's not a certain type of thing, situation, or person that makes you anxious. Maybe you just struggle with anxiety as a whole. Well, I got 3 tips today that can help you manage that anxiety immediately within your body. There was a study done at the University of Chicago last year, and it finds that if you find yourself in the middle of overwhelming anxiety, these are 3 proven tips that you can do immediately that can help you resolve some of those feelings of anxiety. Okay. Number 1, prayer. So prayer not only has spiritual healing effects, and this has been proven, by the way, on scientific levels all over the world, the effects of prayer. Okay. But prayer also has physical and psychological effects as well. Okay. So if you are in the middle of feeling maybe anxiety, or you just are feeling that overwhelming sense of adrenaline running through your body, you can say a quick prayer. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be, something that is loud and crazy. You can just say something simple like, Lord, please take this feeling of anxiety away from me and replace it with the peace that surpasses all understanding. Okay. Next thing you can do is you can write it down. If you are in a situation where you have access to your phone, if you have access to a pen or a pad, whatever you can do, you write those feelings down, and there will be an immediate sense of relief for that anxiety. Okay. Last but not least, if you are having or struggling with anxiety, one immediate thing that you can do to get rid of that anxiety feeling in your body, that anxiousness in your heart or in your body, okay? Breathing. Okay, there is a supernatural force behind breathing, and not just any type of breathing. Okay, what you want to do is you want to inhale through your nose and you want to exhale through your mouth. And you want to hold your inhale and your exhale for at least 3 seconds. Okay. Now, if some of us are smokers or athletes, it may not be feasible for you to hold it for 3 seconds, but that's something that you want to try to do. So again, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Okay, do that about 3 to 5 times, and that will immediately relieve those feelings of anxiety. Okay, now for your business. Now we all know that prices are crazy. Okay, we are suffering from, high gas prices, high food prices. In the United States, here where I'm recording from, we actually have some of the highest food prices right now in the country. Okay, gas, don't even want to talk about it. Light bills, utilities, don't even want to talk about it. Okay, so how can you fund a business with the prices that we have going on here? It's possible. I'm gonna give you the tips on how. So here's what you do. It's not really the case oftentimes that you don't have the money to fund your business or to invest in your business. Okay, oftentimes what it is you have the money, but you spend it unwisely. So here's what you can do to go ahead and track that. You're going to keep track of your expenses for 30 full days. Okay, keep track of your expenses for 30 full days. All of your expenses, whether that be gas, whether that be food, whether that be clothes, shoes. If you are a smoker, count your swishers, everything. I would recommend maybe using a debit card for your purchases for the next month or so, just so that you can have an itemized list. Some of you who are only using cash, write that thing down. Pull up your notepad on your phone, have a pen and paper with you, but keep track of your spending for 30 days straight. Okay, and what you're going to do at the end of that 30 days, you can set a calendar reminder on your phone, whatever you want to do. But you want to do it for 30 days. And at the end of that 30 days, what you're going to do is you're going to start cost cutting. Okay, you probably can't go out every weekend. Maybe you got to cut back 2 weekends. Okay, you probably can't have the newest mics that come out this month. Maybe you got to wait until next month. Okay, you might can't smoke as much as you want. Maybe you got to cut it down some. But whatever you do, there is something that can be cut out that can be funded instead and reroute it into your business. Okay, and you won't know that until you start keeping track. Listen, guys, I did this tip. I'm telling you that this works. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have your personal spending separate from your business spending. Okay, if you do this, I guarantee you will find areas within your spending that can be instead allocated towards your business. It works. I've tried it. Okay, now Bible. Interesting fact about the Bible. Did you know that all 3 of the top major religions of the world follow the Old Testament in the Bible? Most people have their thoughts and their feelings about the Bible being rewritten, about different things like that. But I can tell you this for sure. Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, okay, all adhere to the Old Testament. Okay, now myself, if you've listened to me for any amount of time, you know that I was a Muslim for a while, self-claimed Muslim for a while, read the Quran, did things like that. And this is actually true. I've never too much dabbled into Judaism. I grew up a Christian, left the church, tried Islam. I was a Black Israelite for a while, and then now I am a believer in Christ. But all 3 major religions in the world are stemmed and adhere to the Old Testament. Where the differences come, and arguably to me, my opinion, the most important part of the Bible is when it gets to talking about Jesus and who he was, Christ, and what he did for this world. Okay, I thought that was a very, very interesting fact. Now, when we come back from this commercial break, we are going to get into probably, I would say, one of the most serious episodes that I've ever recorded. And it's going to be about the predators that are among us, the predators that are around us, how to recognize them, what to do when you have been shown that there's a predator around you. Okay? Keep it locked.
Here at Heartbreak Hill Podcast, we realize that you could have been anywhere in the world, but you've decided to be here with us, and we appreciate you. Rose Gold will be back in just a moment to finish the content for today. Wednesday nights at 7 p.m., Channel 17 on Speak Minneapolis Network, you can find Heartbreak Hill Podcast. RoseGoldLenses.com has all the unique sunglasses and accessories for the season. Heartbreak Hill Podcast is now offering podcast services, production, host training, interview training, as well as launch planning. To find out more information about the services that we now offer, please visit heartbreakhillpodcast.com. On October 10th, 2022, our ebook, Anyone Can, How to Set Up, Create, and Launch a Worldwide Podcast and Make 6 Figures While Doing It, will be available for purchase on our website. This is an ebook you will not want to miss. While you're at it, please join our private Facebook group, Heartbreakers. There you will find daily inspiration as well as tips and tricks on how to recognize unhealthy relationship behavior. The link to join the private group is in the description. If you are in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area or surrounding suburban areas, Here to Serve Mobile Notary is able to help with all of your document and business solution needs. They are offering virtual notary services, document consultation, immigration document consultation, unclaimed property, and much more. If you'd like to know more about these services as well as get a quote, please send an email to htsnotary@gmail.com. If you are interested in promoting your business on our channel, please send an email to hbhp@heartbreakhillpodcast.com.
All right. Thank you so much for watching. Listen, if you are just now joining us here on Heartbreak Hill Podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we are talking about a very serious topic, and it is called the predators around us. Okay. How to spot a predator that may be in your home, that may be within your family. And we're going to talk about what to do about it. Okay, we're going to tell you the signs of one, how to kind of notice it in your children, and then what to do if you are revealed this information. Okay, now I want to start off by saying that both men, women, and children can be predators. Okay, I want to start off by first saying that because a lot of the times as I'm speaking today, you might hear me say the word he. Okay, when I'm saying that, I am not claiming that only men can be predators. Please understand that, okay? Very important that you understand that. Now, before we go ahead and get into this, I want to tell you about the effects of unhealed sexual trauma, okay? Because sexual trauma hurts everybody in a family or in a household, okay? A lot of people just think that when a person is abused, it only affects the person that was abused. That is false. Everybody around is traumatized by a person being touched, molested, raped, anything like that. Everybody is affected by that. Okay, I want to start out by saying this. So here are some of the things that can happen either to the child that was touched or to the family that was around. Okay, extreme jealousy in the home from the mother towards the daughter or the son that may have been touched. We have generations and generations of jealousy and competition that goes on in our households due to the fact that the predator, who's oftentimes the provider or a high figure in the house, they have created this kind of favoritism relationship that has caused jealousy between the mother of the household and the daughter of the household, or if it's a woman, maybe the dad and the son. Okay, so there's extreme jealousy that goes on. Okay, depression, drug addiction, repeated toxic relationships. You can't love a woman because you were touched or molested of a child, not the way that you want to. You cannot for the life of you find a healthy man or even be attracted to a healthy man because of the things that happened to you as a child sexually. Okay, promiscuous behavior. It devalues a child when they are touched. It devalues the sense that they have of their body. Your body is a holy temple, and it is beautiful and made by God. Now, God may not have gave you those extra 50 pounds, okay? But he certainly made you to be beautiful and wonderful in your image, okay? So just want to start off by saying that. Prostitution, low value of other people. Oftentimes, children who have been touched in a sexual manner, they have no regard for the value of other human life or other human bodies. Okay. And I want to also start out by saying, before I get into this list, that this is not a full comprehensive list. Okay. These are things that I have seen while I work in therapy. These are things that I experienced as a child who was touched and violated more than once. Okay. And these are things that I hear when I am entering into group settings and sessions as well. I actually, back in the month of July, it was either July or the end of June, one of the two. I actually had the privilege, and I say privilege because I learned a lot, to actually attend a group therapy session for convicted predators. So some of them, had touched children. Other of them, had raped adults. Okay, but I got a chance to sit into that, and this is where this list comes from. Okay, this list also comes from kind of a quick video that I made on TikToks about 5 ways that you can tell the man that you love is a predator. Okay, now that video was made as a preface to this episode. This episode was actually not supposed to be aired until the first week of October. But I felt a very, very strong yearning and irking in my spirit to move this thing up and switch this schedule around. Okay. So this is not a full list. These are common signs that predators have in common. If you have children, if you do foster care, if you have adopted, please, please, please listen up to this list. Okay. I want you to know that one of the number one indicators of abuse, it's not you being poor. It's not you being a drug addict. It's not you being unfit. Did you know that one of the number one indicators of abuse in a home to a child is a step parent? In fact, having a step parent in the home increases the chance of abuse by 90%. Now, I'm not saying, of course, this is not for everybody. And some of the stuff that you hear in this list are not going to pertain to you. But if I'm going through this list and you have multiple instances of what I'm saying to be true, I'm going to tell you what to do at the end. So make sure you watch. Okay, now, number 1, gifts in secret. Number 1. Okay, the number one thing that a predator may or may not do, I don't know why I said may not, but the number one thing that a predator may do is they will give your child gifts in secret. Now, gifts do not have to be anything big. It could be a stick of gum. It could be candy. It could be money. When a predator does that to a child, they're trying to see where their trust level is. Okay, so this is a form of what we like to call grooming. They begin to give the child things in order to gain their trust. Okay, so this is why you teach your children. I don't care if it's a stick of gum. You teach your children as soon as they can talk. If somebody gives you anything, I don't care who it is. If it's a family member, if it's a teacher, if it's anybody, especially somebody in this home, tell me. And you make sure that you, as the caregiver or the parent, that you are a comfortable person that people could come to stuff with. Okay, some of us are so combative and so angry that our children won't feel comfortable coming to us about things like this. People can't even have a conversation with you without you getting offended. You have to get them spirits up off you because it matters, and it matters in the life of your child. So number 1 is gifts. The next kind of signs or indicator that you might have of a child or that there may be a predator in your home is bedwetting or a child being unable to be potty trained. Let me tell you why that is, okay? Some of it is nerves. So like if you have a child that is potty trained and all of a sudden they start wetting the bed, if they're being sexually exploited by a predator in your home, they may all of a sudden start wetting the bed. But the opposite can also be true. Let's say you have a child in your home and you've started to potty train them, but for some reason they are being in reverse. Now, some of that could be, when they go other places, people are putting Pampers on them or things like that. But oftentimes, okay, a child that cannot get on a normal track to using the bathroom, number 1 or number 2, it is a sign. It is a sign that somebody is doing something to their personal parts that they should not be doing. Okay, children get confused about the use of their body parts when they got somebody that's touching them or doing things to them that are inappropriate. Okay, so that's another sign. Bedwetting, maybe they can't be potty trained no matter how hard you try, or they're wetting the bed out of nowhere. Okay, another sign: frequent wandering through the night, especially if the bathroom or the kitchen is by your child's room. When you have somebody in your home, now mind you, this be man, woman, or child. This is not specific to a certain type of sex, okay? If you have, or an adult or a child, if you have somebody that is constantly getting up in the middle of the night, I encourage you one of these nights to follow them. It don't have to be what you don't want to do is what you do. Just get up and see what it is that they're doing, especially if it takes them a long time. You've been with somebody long enough to know how long it takes them to do a number two. You've been with somebody long enough to know how long it takes them to use the bathroom. So if you have a night walker or a night creeper in your home, that's something that you should pay attention to, okay? Next, villainizing a particular child, okay? This is another form of grooming. And this is what I mean by villainizing. This child is always seen as a problem. Okay. Oftentimes when we think about grooming, we think about what I just said in terms of gifts or being nice and this, that. No. I found in practice and by hearing the stories of other people, okay, that sometimes when a predator is in your home, they will constantly pick, nitpick, complain about, have an issue with a particular child. Watch that. Watch that. Okay? That's all I'm saying. Watch that. Okay? That brings me to my next point. They will blame a troubled child for sexual accusations. I seen this boy on TikTok. This was a while ago, too. This probably was in like February of this year, right around the time where we was still recording for this show. And he talked about how he was a problem child. And he was the oldest sibling of his family. And his little sister started complaining to his mom. His sister couldn't talk at the time. But his sister started, he was about maybe 6, and his sister was probably like 3. She didn't talk very well. But she started complaining about her private parts hurting all the time. And what the predator did, it was the stepfather. What the predator did is he started to blame the problem child for the reason why his little sister's private parts were hurting. And what they would do is they would grab a belt and they would whoop him. And they would ask him over and over, did you touch it? Did you touch it? Did you touch it? And he eventually would say yes. See, kids can be gaslit into telling you something just because they don't want to be whooped or just because they're being tired of being whooped. So if you have a troubled child in your home, and all of us have one, I was one. As a matter of fact, I was a troubled child in a lot of homes. I was a troubled child in a lot of homes. If you have a troubled child in your home and you have another child that may start exhibiting signs of being touched, or they may start pointing to their private parts and say, Mom, this hurts, or Dad, this hurts, whatever. And whoever get to doing the blaming, it was probably that weirdo, or it's probably her because she fast. Watch them. Just like, if you in a room with somebody, they say, and then they fart, and they say, whoever smelt it, dealt it. Whoever smelt it, dealt it. What you accusing for? Why are we not getting to the bottom of what's going on? Why are you automatically blaming this thing on this child who has problems? And I'm not saying that it can't be the problem child, okay? But all I'm saying is watch that joker who does that blaming right away. Especially if you have a child that has a history of problems. Let me keep going because this is getting good. I'm getting chills talking about this, okay? I already kind of said that children can be gaslit. So this is what you do. When you are approaching children and you want to find out if they've been touched or doing the touching, don't approach them with no belt. That's not going to get you the truth out of a child. Don't think that you can whoop a child with a belt into telling the truth, because you won't. They'll either do one of two things. They'll lie and tell you that they did it so that you can stop whooping them, or they will say that they didn't do it because they really and truly didn't do it. All I'm saying is that whooping a child ain't going to get you to the truth. I'm going to tell you how to get to the truth at the end of this. Let me keep going. This is another one, big one. Sexual advances while you're sleeping. In my training for counseling, this was one of the number one things that I had no idea about. And let me explain this a little bit further, okay? I'm not talking about when you are laying down with your husband and your wife and they start feeling and touching and kissing on you trying to get some hanky-panky. That's different, because quite honestly, a lot of us like to be woken up in the middle of the night with some delight, okay? I was one of them, especially when I was married. That's not what I'm talking about. When I say waking you up with sexual advances, I'm not talking about the child. I'm talking about you as the man or the woman of the house, okay? You wake up and all of a sudden, you feel something poking at your mouth. You feel something slapping you in the face. Now, some of you will laugh at that, but it's nothing funny about that. Do you know that people who wake you up in that type of sexual manner, like I just described, with that self-serving, they're waking you up so that you can serve them sexually? Do you know that that is a sign of a sexual predator? This is on a psychological level of how they view sex. They view sex as a self-serving act, as in they are the one that's supposed to be served. And by the way, let me throw this in here too. These are also people who want to pay you in sex when you're in a relationship with them. So what I mean by that is like, let's say you get paid right around payday, they get super duper freaky. Or they want to use sex to thank you for something that you've done. I'm not saying in all cases, but I'm saying that watch and pay attention, okay, to how a person uses or weaponizes sex in your home. Watch that, because it's a huge indicator. Let me go on to the next one, because this is the most important one of all. All right. Your child, or the child that you are foster caring or got custody of or whatever, they will tell you. Do you understand what I'm saying? And if they don't feel comfortable telling you, they will tell somebody at their school. They will tell one of their friends or their family. That's why you should check them phones. Check them phones. I don't care if they're 16 or 6. You check them phones and you see what they're talking about. If you want to get to the bottom of what's going on in the child life, you check those messages between the friends. That's going to tell you. I mean, you can check the boyfriend, girlfriend messages too, but get to the messages for them friends, because your child will tell you. And if they don't tell you, like I said, they will tell you their friend. They will tell somebody at school, an adult that they trust, but they will say it out of their mouth. And when your child tells you something like that, when a child in your care tells you something like that, you listen. You listen to that, because God will give a child a voice. I'm going to tell y'all a quick story, then I got to move on because we're working on 30 minutes here, and it seemed like we've been here for 4 minutes. Okay. I had a man. I had 2 men, actually. One man was a family. He was in our family, and another man was a church member. That man in that church van, he put his hands up my skirt, and I screamed to the top of my lungs so everybody could hear. I said, "Hey, hold on. This man just put his hand up my skirt, y'all." What do you think made me do that? First of all, I'll tell you that it was the Holy Spirit. Secondly, I will tell you that somebody was praying for me when I wasn't in my mother's care at this time. Somebody was able to pray for me to give me that courage to do that. All I'm saying is if you trust God with your kids, he will give them a voice to tell you. If you got any piece of God in you, and if you've shown your children any type of God themselves, they will tell you. They will have the ability to tell you what that person has said, what that person has did. I'll give you another example. I don't want to say family friend because he had been married into our family for a long time. Propositioned me. And I went. I didn't tell the person that I was living with because I didn't feel comfortable. Now, at the time, I was only 11 years old. So I didn't understand the seriousness of what this man had said to me. Okay. But I went to a lady at my school who I loved so much. And I said, you know what? So-and-so said this to me, but they said they were just joking, and I don't know. And she made me call my mother immediately and say, grown men don't play like that. So all I'm saying is that when a child talks to you, now I didn't understand the seriousness then. In fact, I felt ashamed because that actually tore our family apart a little bit, if I'm being quite honest. It didn't tear it apart, but it was an awkwardness for a long time because I had reported that man who had propositioned me. But do you understand what I'm saying? That I had the voice to tell somebody? God will do that for your family. He'll do that for your babies. All I'm telling you is that when you get that type of a ringing in your ear about somebody, you better listen. Let me move on to the next one so we can get it all in. Okay. Now, this is one thing I want to say here on my notes as well. Sometimes the reason why it's difficult for you to believe what your child is telling you is because sometimes the predator in your home is not attracted to the child because you're a child. When I was listening to some of those predators in that group of child abusers, not all of them were attracted to the child. Some of them were just attracted to that teenage girl because she began to fill out and have body like a grown woman. You understand what I'm saying? So sometimes there could be too much dog in a man. And this is why, ladies, if you are a boy mom, it is important that you teach them self-control. Because it's not always about he's a child molester. It's not always about he's attracted to children. Sometimes it's just too much dog in them. And they see that young girl who's 14, who's 13, who's 14, and she's beginning to bud and fill out, and he can't help himself. Listen to your children. Let me go. Here's another one. They constantly are calling people around you child molesters, freaks, or creeps. Let me tell you women something, especially my mothers out here, and I love mothers. Nobody has the place in my heart like a mother, because it is a special job that is chosen to you by God. But you have to stop calling your children, especially your boy child. Stop calling your children creeps. Stop calling your children freaks. Stop calling your children things like weird, because the predators that are around you will take that and run with it. Okay, so you may have a predator that is around you, and they may be calling that child, that's a weirdo, that's a creep, that's a freak. When you hear that being said about a child in your care, stop it right there. You ain't got to be rude. You ain't got to be mad. You just don't call him that. Don't call her that. When you hear somebody steady calling a little girl fast, or she grown, no, she's not. She's working on finding her place as a child. Don't call her that. Don't allow people to label your children or the children in your care creep, freak, fast, grown, all of that. Don't let that ride. Because somehow, some way, when a predator knows that they can label a child like that around you, they know that it's psychologically you have a low percentage of believing them when they tell you something. You stop calling them that, and don't you let nobody else call them type of names. Let me get moving. Keep going. This is a big one. Number 9. They have been accused of this in the past. If you have a man around you that has a record, you have a woman around you that has a record of predatory behavior. And by predator, you want to know what it looks like in a woman when she's a predator? She'll always be with dudes that are less than 18 or fresh 18. That is a predator thing. A lot of times when women reach back like that, that's predatory. And there's a lot of men, I meet with them almost every day, who were touched by their mama friends, who were touched by maybe women in the community, and they don't view that as molestation or rape, but they wonder why they can't connect to women, why they have a certain type of disgust for women like they do. That still counts. I just wanted to say that real quick. But if they have been accused of it in the past, there should be nothing good enough between that man's legs. There should be nothing good enough between that woman's leg. If they have been accused, if they have a public record of child abuse, if they were convicted, and maybe they weren't convicted, but you heard through the grapevine that let me tell you something. That is not something that people just come up with. Do you know that? That's not something that people just say about other people. Do you understand that? That is not something that people just come up with out the rear rocks and say, okay, that man is a pedophile. That man, that's not something that people just say. So if you have somebody around you that has a history of that, it's more than likely that they fall into this category. Because I'm not going to tell you that predators don't change. Because I believe in my heart and in my soul that God can change anybody. All I'm telling you, that if a person has been convicted of that, they have been accused of that, don't let the change be around you and your kids. Let that change be from afar. Don't risk it. That's why you should do background on these men before you let them meet on you. We live in a world of online dating. Women too. We live in a world of online dating, and you have these people coming from all over different type of places in the world. They coming from all over the world to meet you and to be in your home with your children, and you ain't even did no background check. Background checks cost $29.99, and anybody can get them. And if you got an LLC, guess what? You can get a discount on getting a background check on somebody. All you need is their first, their last name, and their date of birth. Do a background check before you let these people move in with you. Before you let these people meet your kids. See what's going on. Do a federal background check. I ain't talking about no state one. There's a difference. Because sometimes people can change their names. But when you do that federal background check and they got them fingerprints, you can't hide. Okay? So they've been accused about it in the past. Okay? Here's another one that I wanted to throw. And this is not considered like a trait of a predator, but this is just a pro tip. Stop letting kids watch other kids. I'm gonna say that again, because I know that we live in an age and at a time where you gotta go to work, you gotta make your money, you gotta do what you have to do, and sometimes the only person that's available to watch your child are people that are in the neighborhood, or cousins, or this or that. But if you can avoid it, the same thing with sleepovers. If you can avoid it, don't let children watch your children. All of the abuse cases that I've seen, and they have facilities and things out here like that where children have been convicted of touching other children. In fact, I have a man that's going to come on the show, not this season, but next season. And he works at a facility full of nothing but children who have abused sexually other children. Don't let other children watch your children. Don't leave your child alone with other children if you can help it. Ask God. He will send you people that are God-fearing and that are really feel of God for real, that will help you watch your children. Try not to do that if you can. Okay, I just wanted to say that out. That's kind of a bonus note here on my notes. I just felt the need to say that. But let me keep going. Frequent UTIs, frequent urinary tract infections in a child. That is a sign. If you keep taking your child to a 2-3-year-old ain't got no business with no UTI. I'm just saying it happens. Don't get me wrong. That's why I say that this is not a full list. But a child at that age doesn't have a business recurring UTIs like that. It's something to watch. Let me tell you. Your child tells you that their private part is hurting. As soon as your child or the children in your care are old enough to talk, teach them the names of their body parts. And I ain't talking about eyes, ears, nose, teeth, lips, and ears. I'm talking about the real body parts. Teach them the names, because your child will be able to point to you and tell you, say, this hurt. Owie. Or this hurt. You pay attention to that. Let me keep going. They favor a particular child. Every time they want to make a store run, every time that there's something good that they want to do or talk about, every time they need something done, they have a special type of attention toward this one particular child that they don't have towards others. Now, oftentimes, I want to just say something about this one right here. When the particularly favored child will usually be a child that is shy, that doesn't talk much, they may be mute to some level. They will particularly favor this child. Watch that. Watch that, freak. Let me keep going because I'm getting mad. Your child all of a sudden becomes overly sexual. Your child all of a sudden, they was never ever doing sex, and this can be dancing. This can be, stuff like blowing kisses, winking, dancing provocatively. Now, some of that can be from what they see on TV and stuff. That's why I say check them phones and them iPads and all of it. Check it all. But if your child all of a sudden is because even in the teenage years, you can start to kind of see a change, and you will assume that it's your child is doing this because they are having sex. It's not always that. Sometimes it could be that person in your home is causing them to act grown because of what's being done to them. Let me keep going because we're getting ready. We coming up on time here, okay? They want to get you drunk and high every time they come over to your house. Or they want to always overcompensate with you and get you in a comfortable state when your children are around. Don't you know that predators study you before they make a move on your child? They study you and they study the child. They know how to get you inebriated. They know how much liquor to give you to make you pass out. They know what strain of weed to give you, how many blunts to give you to make you smoke. They know how many lines of cocaine to give you to get you out of your mind. Watch the person that always wants you to be high and drunk every time you invite them over and your kids is there and they spending the night, y'all get y'all freak on. Next thing you wake up and they might still be there, but you have no idea what happened when you was passed out. You don't know. And your children may not feel comfortable enough to tell you. So watch that. Let me keep going. They have a certain type of pressure. They have a certain type of desperation to meet and see your children. I had an ex-boyfriend. Some of you don't know this. I had a custody of my sister one time, and I had lied to this man and told him that my sister still lived with me. Now I thought that me telling him this would make him not want to come around. Don't you know that freak, every time I talked to him, he wanted to meet my little sister. Now she didn't live with me no more at the time. Like I said, I had lied. I used to give money from him and tell him that it was for my sister's school clothes and stuff like that. I was something else back at this time. But I used to lie to him and say that the money and stuff that I was getting from him. Now you might be saying to yourself, he was wanting to meet her because you was lying to him about where the money was going, and he wanted to see where his money was spent. No, it wasn't. And you'll know the difference. You will know what I'm talking about when a person has a desperation to want to be around your kids and to want to meet them and all this kind of stuff, especially if y'all ain't been dating that long. Why are you so interested in my children, sir? Why are you so interested in my children, ma'am? That is a sign. And when I say so interested, I mean so interested. You'll be able to know. This is why you need the Holy Spirit in dating. This is why every person, man or woman that you date, you should be asking God to show you these type of things, because certain things you just cannot see with your eyes. Certain things you cannot feel with your heart. But that God that sit high and look low, he gonna show you some things. Let me keep going. They will speak about a child's mental or physical maturity. Oftentimes predator, and this kind of goes back to that kind of doggish mentality. Like sometimes it's not always about them being attracted to a child. Sometimes they have too much dog in them to where they just attracted to whoever got a nice shape. This is part of this. They will talk about a child's body in a sexual way. So they may say something like, she got an onion booty for a little girl, or she got real big chest for a girl. Or maybe they may say something like, man, this is from a woman. Man, I walked in on him using the bathroom and he's well endowed. Now that may sound funny, and even if it might be true, why are you thinking like that? And even if you're thinking that, why are you saying it out loud? Or they may try to advance their maturity. Oh, that girl is so smart, man. She got a mind like a grown-up. She talk like she grown. Or, wow, he's very mature for his age. I can have a grown woman conversation with him. No, you can't. And don't let your children, and this is a bonus point, it's not in my notes. Don't let your children have grown-up conversations. When you and your company, your romantic company are around, it should be just the two of y'all. Should no children be sitting in y'all face and in y'all space. And should no grown man or grown woman that you dating be conversating with your kids either. I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is. It just shouldn't be happening. And I'm not just talking about in terms of step parents either, because you'll be surprised at how many biological family members do this same type of thing. Teach children their place in conversations with adults. Let me go on to the next one. Your child or the child that you have custody of, they cry every time it's time to go to that person's house. And this ties into the next one, number 19. Or the child may shut down or get feeble in that person's presence. I know that sometimes we got to do what we got to do. This goes back to what I was saying about letting children watch your children and don't do it. But your children, if they always crying, this is babies too. Because some of you think that your child is just a crybaby and they spoiled. Children are the most purest thing on this earth. And if your child is crying tears every time it's time to go to this person's house, every time they got to be around this person, or when that person comes into a room, your child may shut down. Or your child may get quiet and look nervously around, or just not be themselves. That's a sign. It's a sign. Okay? Let me keep going. Excessive. This is a really, really big one. Okay? Because this is one that gets missed often. And this is the last one before I go into what you should do if your child tells you this. Okay? If you have a partner that excessively cheats on you or beats on you, this is true for men and women. Let me explain to you why. This goes back to I said earlier, kind of one of the ways that you can tell is if your child tells you. See, once your child tells you that a man or a woman has tried to touch them and you do nothing, you have given that predator free reign. You have given that predator, because now they know that psychologically they got you. It's the same with cheating and beating. If you have a partner that has cheated on you all these years, I don't care if it's your husband, I don't care if it's your wife, they have a problem in that area of cheating on you all the time, or they are abusive to you. Okay? You have shown them that no matter what they do, you will still be there. This is part of that vetting process I was telling you about when I told you that the predator has watched you and has watched your child. That cheating and beating, that's an indicator to the predator that you were just down for anything. And I need you to know that if you're in that situation, you are worthy. You are worthy of great things. You don't have to deal with that mess. And if you're not going to leave for you, the worst thing you could say when you have a cheating or beating partner is that I'm staying for my kids. Because you're doing more harm than you are doing good. And a lot of times you're opening up the gateway for other things like sexual abuse when you stay with a person like that. Now, those are my list of ways to tell, okay? If you are unsure, or if I said some things that are on this list that piqued your interest, I want you to take your children, take your child, whoever it is, one-on-one, and I want you to talk to them. Don't get a belt. Don't intimidate them. Don't do all of that. Talk to your child and ask them, did somebody touch you right here? Point out the body parts if they don't know them yet. Did somebody touch you right here? Did somebody touch you? Point it out. Ask them. And if you are still unsure, because sometimes maybe you feel like you're not comfortable asking, you ask that Holy Spirit to reveal it to you, and he will. Let me tell you something about that word. It is always true, and it's going to remain true until the end of time. If that is happening and you are unsure of how to go about that, God will show you. God will tell you. He will show you if the person in your life or in your home is a predator, whether it's a man, woman, child, cousin, boyfriend, uncle, whoever it is. God will show you. And when he shows you, okay, this is what you do. What you don't do is you don't get angry at the child. That's what you don't do. Okay? There was a Steve Wilkos show. And I'm going to be brief with this because I know people have their thoughts and their feelings about the Steve Wilkos show and how he's always embarrassing black people and this and that. But there was a story on there that I watched maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And the mother was married to this man she'd been married to this man for about 10 years. And they came on the show to find out that this man had been taking sexual pictures of this girl. The mother got angry with the girl. Now, the girl was about maybe 14, and she went off on that girl. You didn't tell me. You said that this has been happening since you was 4, since you was 5 years old, and you didn't tell me. You let me be with a molester this whole time. How could you? What about me? How can I wanted to get on that show, and I wanted to deck her. You know why I wanted to deck her? Because this is why your child didn't tell you, you fool. This is why your child didn't tell you. Look how you acted. And that's why I say some of you, your children can't come to you. So all you can do is pray, because you've already set the tone in your household that nobody can talk to you about nothing that you don't want to hear. They're afraid to tell you about things, but the Holy Spirit go reveal it. So all I'm saying is you do not get angry when your child says something like that to you. What you don't do is nothing. Let me stop here for a second. Something that will take you to the grave as a mother, as a father, as a caregiver, then knowing that your child has reported sexual abuse to you and you did nothing. Cancer, addiction, generational traumas. You will send yourself to an early grave holding on to something like that. What you don't do is do nothing. You have to do something. And for those of you who are hearing this for the first time, maybe you were confused and you've never been talked to in the raw like this. God will forgive you. Your children may not. So if your children has express something like this to you, I don't care if it was 30 years ago. You go to that child right now after this episode or when this episode is going on, whatever, and you tell your child that you're sorry for not believing them and for not acting on what they told you. You don't know how many things you're going to release off of your child by telling them that you're sorry. Ain't no buts. Ain't no, this is why I didn't do anything. This is why I did. I'm sorry I did nothing all those years ago when you told me what was going on. You will break a generational curse with an apology like that. Now, some of you may be too proud to do that. But being proud ain't going to get you nowhere. Because it's going to come out one way or the other. But I just wanted to say that, okay? Now, the first thing that you do is you say thank you. You thank your child and you give them a hug or you give them a kiss, or maybe they're an adult and they come out and they tell you this years later. You thank your child. Or thank that child who's, maybe they weren't your son or your daughter, but you were a figure, a parent figure. You thank them. And you say, thank you for trusting me, for telling me. The second thing you do, separate. If that person is still in your home, get them out of there. Until you get to the bottom of this thing here, because sometimes kids lie. Okay, I just seen a thing on Ayala Van Zandt, I think is how you pronounce her name, and some sisters had got mad at their stepdaddy, and they had lied on that man. So sometimes kids lie, but that's where the Holy Spirit come in, because you can't fool the Holy Spirit. You cannot fool the Holy Spirit, and if that person or that child is lying, this is why you pray before you do anything else. You ask God to reveal it to you. So you separate. You remove that person for the home. You remove you and your children from that home. Whatever you got to do, there has to be some sort of separation until you can get to the bottom of what's going on here. The third thing, is you file a police report. You might not want social workers in your business. Maybe you got an addiction. You don't want other kids in your home to be taken. You're a foster child. You don't file a police report. And you go down there, I'm going to tell you how to do it. You go down to the nearest police station and you say, I have a police report to file. That needs to be documented that happened in your home. Because if you do nothing about it, if somebody finds out, don't you know that you're liable? They will get you like they got that lady that was that was riding around with Ted Bundy. She went to jail too because she didn't say nothing. Look it up. You file a police report. The next thing you do, because some of you got aggressors in your home or predators in your home that won't leave. I know what it's like to have somebody in your house that don't want to get out now. File a restraining order. Don't let this person that's living with you know that this is what you're doing. You go down and at the same time that you filing that police report, you file that restraining order. At the same time, double whammy is free. They got these little fee waivers, and this is true in every state. So I don't want to hear nothing about you ain't got time. Call off work if you have to. But you file them 2 federal pieces of paperwork, that restraining order and that police report. And you separate. You never, ever, ever blame the victim. Some men and some women believe that when a child gets caught molesting the other child, or when a child gets caught being molested, that they should get a whooping. That comes from a person who had been shamed sexually. Here's what I mean by that. If you're dealing with a man or a woman who was raped or who was taken advantage of, or who got beat, got some type of sexual misconduct done to them, and they're still carrying that shame and that hurt and that anger and that pain, they will blame the victims. They will tell you to whoop your child. They will tell you to whoop your niece or your nephew or whoever it is, whatever, your foster child. They'll say, no, whoop their butt. Or maybe if you catch them in the act, if you catch a 16-year-old doing something to a 12-year-old, or you want to whoop them both, absolutely not. Don't do that. Do not do that. And I'm telling you now, if you did do that in the past, it's not too late to apologize, because you under the sound of my voice. God wanted you to hear this. You apologize if you punish that child. Because you don't want to ever blame the victim and make them think that it's something that they did to be hurt. Whatever vicinity that they were in, whether it was in a closed room, where they were next to the person, whatever, they felt that they could trust this individual. And you don't ever want to shame a child for trusting an adult, because that is not their fault. That adult took advantage of them. That older child that was 16 or 15 or 13 or whatever, and they were 5 or 6, they took advantage of that. Okay? Next thing you do is you get help for yourself and for that child. And I'm going to tell you how to do it right now. If you got any type of medical through the state, this is free for you. Therapy is free for you if you did not know. And I'm going to talk about in a second what to do if you don't have medical. But if you have any type of medical through the state or through the county, it's called Medicaid. If you have that, okay, your therapy, your child services, child therapy, they have family therapy, they all get different types of therapy. But you need that. Because you need somebody who's objective, not you, not another family member, unless there may be a therapist, I would argue, but even then, that's too close. It needs to be somebody who knows the right questions to ask and the right self-esteem building tools to do to build that innocence and to build that self-esteem back up in that child. So here's how you do it. You call the customer service number that's on the back of your card. If you have a medical card, every one of you has a customer service number on the back of that medical card. And what you're going to do is when that customer service representative gets on the phone, you're going to say, hello, I need to have a list of in-network, keyword in-network. I need to have a list of in-network child psychologists or family psychologists or family therapists, whatever. I need to have a list of those in my area sent to me. Now, they're going to send you a long list. And I'm going to tell you that when you call to a lot of them places, they're going to tell you that they're booked up for months and months and months. But don't you stop, because somebody on that list will be able to take on you. They'll be able to take on your child and be able to rebuild that. I'm telling you with God love the truth. Somebody is going to have an opening for you. But you have the access. We live in a world where we have access to information like never before. So that's how you get it if you have medical. If you don't have medical, you're going to Google. You're going to go on Yahoo. What's another popular search engine? Bing, whatever. You're going to get on there and you're going to search psychiatrists. Now, I wouldn't say psychiatrists. You don't really need, I wouldn't say you need drugs for this unless you are, diagnosed to need drugs. But you really want to look for a therapist or a psychologist or a counselor. Those are going to be the keywords that you look for. And you're going to say, in my area, put in your zip code. So you would say something like child psychologist, whatever your zip code is, 60634. We'll just use that one, okay? You will get a list. If you do not have medical, you are going to pay. Now, it's not really that expensive if you really want to be. Some of them have payment plans. If you are listening to me, if you are watching me right now, you can afford to get therapy for your child. You can afford to get therapy for yourself because both of you will need it. You need it because there's a certain type of shame and there's a certain type of hurt when you have let something like this pass your eyes. And the therapist will be able to reinforce that you didn't let anything happen, that this person tricked you and deceived you. Or maybe now you're hearing this and you need help. And you say, I did nothing all those years ago when my child come to me, and you've been carrying that shame. The therapist or the counselor can be able to reinforce and kind of get rid of some of those negative self-talk that you have, so that you can forgive yourself. And this is why I started this episode by saying that if you came on here, and some of you may have heard this if you joined late, maybe you didn't hear me say this, but I said that if I see anybody in the comments talking about how slow or stupid or dumb a person has to be to not know somebody is messing with their child, I was going to block you. You know why? Because anybody can be fooled by a predator. That's part of the definition of a predator, is to be deceitful. It could happen to anybody. So those of you talking about no, that could never be me. People ain't watching their kids. It could happen to anybody. Shut your mouth and open your eyes and ears and pay attention to what's going on. And you stop judging people so much. Stop looking down on folks so much, because I find that those are the people that get entrenched in this type of lifestyle the most. I made another video on TikTok about this in terms of pimping. The ones who talking about they would never are the ones that usually do. And it's the same when it comes to falling in love with a predator. So if I see you in the comments or on YouTube, and I would hate to block you because we got good things coming, but if I hear you talking like that, I'm going to have to kick you out of here permanently. Okay? Now, self-forgiveness, get help for yourself, get help for that child. And the last but not least is you pray. You pray for your healing. You pray for self-forgiveness for yourself. And then you pray for the self-forgiveness and the healing for your child. Listen, nothing will ruin a child more. Nothing hurts a child more than having their innocence taken. And that's not always in way of penetration. Any type of sexual act. It ruins a child, but it can be rebuilt. It can be built back up. But you have to pray. You have to find you a God-fearing church. And I already know that it's coming. Well, the church is where this happened. I'll tell you the truth. One of the times that I was touched, it happened on church property. But I'm here to tell you that those people that are in those churches, so-called churches, and they let those things happen, that ain't part of God's church. And I came to know this when I got back to the Lord a few years ago. Those things that you are seeing of those priests and those preachers that are touching children and it's being covered up, those are not representations of God. The church is a body of people. It is not a building. And the sooner you can separate the two, the sooner you can get around real believers. You'll know what to look for. I got an episode coming out later this season about what to look for in the church and how to know you're amongst believers for real. Now, I have to tell you this because I would be lying if I don't. Wolves in sheep clothing exist in every body of believers. But guess what? In a real church, they are aired out. And ain't no real preacher, ain't no real priest, ain't no real church gonna sit up there and let something like that happen and do nothing. Not no real church, not no church that come from God, not no church that claim that they got the blood of Jesus Christ on it. That ain't no real church. And I need you guys to know that because oftentimes the predator in your life, there's a reason why you cannot recognize them. They come dressed as everything you want. They super freaky. They might be good providers. You might have been with them a long time. So the wolf in sheep clothing can come in all shapes and forms, but don't let that stop you from praying. Don't let that stop you from searching for a body of believers that will help protect you in your job. I belong to an awesome church, awesome, and they are vigilant, and I mean vigilant in the protection of children, and that's why I love them so much. Let me tell you this, I'm not a spokesperson or anything like that in terms of, I'm not a spokesperson in terms of, beating down the church. Listen, I said this in the last episode, nobody has a reason to not like the church more than me. I've had a lot of things done, but what I've come to realize is the church is not a building. The church is a body. And when somebody who comes in the name of Jesus, okay, when a person is coming in the name of Jesus and they really a freak, that is not the church. That is not the church that God died for, that Christ sent his son down and came down in human form and died for. That's not what that is. All right? Now listen, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you decided to be here with me. I need you to keep it locked. Marinate a little bit for a few seconds on what I just said, because we got to come back with the question of the week. I love you. I'll be right back. All right, now, thank you all so much. If you are just now joining in, we just did a powerful, powerful teaching today, okay, on predators around us, how to notice them, how to see if maybe your child has been a victim of them, what to do if maybe your child has came to you in the past. So you're going to want to rewind this if you're joining us for the first time right now. So we're going to do the question of the week, and then we're going to get on up out of here, because as always, y'all, I done went over the hour that I was allotted. I don't know how I keep doing, but I'm getting better. Y'all pray for me on that, because every time I go over, I got to pay some more money. And I can't keep paying this money, but I keep paying it for y'all because I love y'all so much. We've got overwhelming support. Some of you don't know this, but Heartbreak Hill Podcast is ran strictly by donations. Okay, this is a donation-ran podcast. So for our listeners and supporters that come in and tune in, this is how we're able to produce ourselves. This is how we're able to have our TV slot. This is how we're able to do that. Okay, by being able to be supported by you. So thank you so much for that. Now, we're going to get into our question of the week, and we're going to get on up out of here. Now, this question comes from somebody. This is actually not from our email. This is from one of a follow on our TikTok TikTok family. And if you're not following me on TikTok, go ahead. My hair is never done on there, and I'm always talking crazy. But what I be saying is the truth, okay? At Rose Gold Covered, okay? This is from Tishawn Nicholas. And if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize, honey. She's coming from Casper, Wyoming. And her question is, what does it mean when you said that a woman's code was cracked? Okay, so I'm gonna tell you real quick what she's referencing to. And this, go ahead on my TikTok real quick, whenever you get a chance. I made a video that got muted by TikTok, and I'm really fighting to get it back. But if it's not, that's okay, because I'd rather tell y'all anyway. Okay, what I said in the video is a person had asked me a question. They had asked me, what does it mean when somebody has somebody's name tattooed on them? And I told them the truth about what I have seen to be true throughout my life. Now, of course, this is not true for everybody. Okay, but what I said was, when you see a man who has a woman's name tattooed on him, okay, listen to me closely. When you see a man that has a woman's name tattooed on him, he's usually a cheater or a beater. When you see a woman that has a man's name tattooed on her, that means that that man has cracked her sexual code. And so what Tishawn is asking me is, what do I mean by cracking a woman's sexual code? Now, what I mean by that is that you can get to a certain point in your sexual life as a woman where a man can crack your sexual code. And what that means is, on a spiritual, mental, and physical level, okay, they have opened you up. Now, it's done through sex, and a lot of women won't understand. Well, he wasn't nothing in bed. No, it's not about if they made you climax or not. It's not about how good they were in bed. It's about the spiritual demons that they are carrying with them when they have had sex with you that has opened them up. That's what it can mean. Other times, it just means that they put it on you real good. You sprung and you ready to walk to China if they ask you to. That's one side of it. But I'm talking about the other elements of sex. And this is why God tells us not to have sex with until you get married. Now, you know what? That Bible is something else, because God has always told us not to have sex until we get married. God has always said that. Excuse that phone ringing, guys. God has always said don't have sex until you get married. But don't you don't know why he said don't do it until you do it? Because knowing what I know now, I would have waited until I was married to have sex, because it opens you up to things that you are not ready for. Women, men, if you are hearing me out right now, and if you got any sort of realness in you, then you know you wouldn't be putting up with half the bull crap you putting up with somebody if you never gave them some of that nook. You know it. You wouldn't let no goofy cheat on you or beat on you if they weren't putting it on you in some type of way. But that's what I said. Even if the sex is not good per se, it has nothing to do with that. It's about what the spiritual exchange that happens when you have sex with somebody. Okay? So that's what I meant, Tishawn, by saying, crack their sexual code. Okay, that's what I meant by that. So listen, guys, I love answering these questions. We pick them randomly throughout our inboxes on my inboxes on social media, as well as our email, hbhp@heartbreakhillpodcast.com. If you're watching this, then we have it kind of scrolling there for you. Send us our questions. You can even send them in anonymously. Okay, if you don't want everybody in your business wondering why you asking these type of questions and this, that, and the third element, okay, send it in anonymously. Just put that in there and I will not call you out. Okay, listen here, you could have been anywhere in the world, family, but you decided to be here with me, and for that I am eternally grateful. Remember, we are breaking hearts, blowing minds, one conversation at a time. Next time,